John Oldman gazes at the fire in the fireplace and reminisces about the primitive campfire and the people gathered around it. This takes place in a museum near an exhibition about a primitive tribe. His girlfriend, Carolyn, is leading a tour. She explains that the Cro-Magnons were no different from modern humans. They even lived in the same geological epoch, the Holocene, which began right after the Ice Age. They had the same hopes and fears, the same family bonds, though they would have been grateful for antibiotics and sneakers, as they rarely lived past the age of 35. The students laugh. She laments that if they could see the world today, they would be horrified at what humans have done to it. They themselves have become internet addicts. In the adjacent room, two students are occupied with their own tasks. One is sketching the exhibits, while the other is engrossed in her phone. Suddenly, Tara spots Professor Yang. That's what they now call Oldman. She inquires about what he's doing here, and Isabel jests, he's already 100 years old. But Tara objects, saying he's only around 40, and she must take her chance. The girls approach John, and he playfully quizzes them. Tara suggests taking a selfie in front of the cave paintings, but he declines, inviting Isabel to come in at any time and take any books she'd like to read. In the evening, John sits at the table. He gazes at his reflection and notices the first wrinkles in graying hair. John recalls a meeting with friends from 10 years ago, when Edith noticed that he wasn't aging. It seems this flaw is beginning to fade. John leads a couple. He explains that according to the teachings of Buddha, people can change everything. Turn greed into generosity, anger into compassion, and ignorance into wisdom. Miracles can be found everywhere. A discussion about Buddha ensues. John urges them to think, who was Buddha? The students speculate and conclude that he was a god. But John denies this, saying he was an ordinary man who contemplated humanity for a long time and achieved enlightenment. Isabel compares him to Jesus, and one of the students shares the widely accepted version of resurrection. John asks if they know this or if they believe it. People only know what they can confirm. It's not the same. Philip insists he knows that Jesus existed and believes he was holy. John cites quotes from great thinkers about faith and encourages them to return to Buddha. Isabel says there is still a lot in their teachings that they have in common. People should be generous and not judge others. Then Liko mentions that Buddha urged not to believe everything written in sacred scriptures. The guys start arguing Jesus suffered for people, while Buddha wanted to get rid of suffering. John corrects their misconceptions and concludes the lecture. The students discuss religion and the professor. Tara suggests dragging him to a party because there's so much interesting stuff in his head. In the evening, John prepares dinner. Isabel arrives and asks for a book, and John allows her to choose one from the shelf. Carolyn arrives, and John mentions that he wanted to go hunting, but Carolyn invites him to a party. Isabel reads the book she borrowed from Yang. Tara arrives. Isabel reveals that it's Professor Jenkins' book, signed to his dear friend, John Oldman. Tara is surprised by the wordplay. Yang and old. Could this be a joke? Tara checks the publication year, 2007. So, according to their calculations, John was around 33 years old at that time. He can't be considered an old man. Maybe that's why Arthur Jenkins called him that? The girls discuss who Jenkins is. A renowned archaeologist, a teacher, and author of a couple of books. But his latest one, The Longest Night with the Man from Earth, where he describes a nighttime conversation with John Oldman, became his downfall. People mocked him because he claimed that the Savior walks among us. Arthur had to step away from everything. Tara remarks that the description sounds a lot like Yang. The girls decide to get their hands on that book. Carolyn catches John packing for the night. He says he needs some time alone. He knows something is not right. He can't do many things he used to. The woman says it's called aging. If he insists on hiding in the woods like a caveman, he can go. John goes to the forest. He climbs a hill and surveys the surroundings. At the same time, Isabel and Tara visit Philip. Liko is already there. Isabel recounts all the strange things they've learned about John Yang. He's 14,000 years old. He knew Columbus and Van Gogh. He took on different names, including Jesus of Nazareth. He's familiar with Buddha, and everything they've heard about Christ matches him. Philip is outraged. How can this be? The girl tells them about Arthur Jenkins. He conducted research on John Oldman. So, until 2001, there are no mentions of him. His documents, driver's license, tax returns, all forged. Jenkins even found 2 colleges where he taught. The names appear with 10-year gaps. He erases his past every time he changes his life. Philip says he's not offended because it's just a story. If he believed every fantasy, he'd be not such a religious. Isabel shows a book with a photo inside. The man is in profile since John never allowed himself to be photographed. Nevertheless, he is recognizable. Arthur Jenkins' house. He reads an incoming email from Isabel Cheng requesting a conversation about Oldman, and he sends her away, along with John. The young people go to John Young's house. They know that Carolyn is not at home and plan to search the place. They see a painting by Van Gogh but consider it a forgery. Liko goes down to the basement and finds a box of books on history and religion. They are all written by different authors, but the name is the same, John. Dr. Kitris arrives. The trio escapes through a hidden passage, but before leaving, Isabel takes a photo of the couple. At the same time, in the forest, John injures his hand with a stone. It's bleeding, and the wound doesn't seem to heal. Isabel reports that her cousin, an art specialist, considers the Van Gogh painting authentic. Liko mentions that he called publishing houses, and there's no information about the authors of historical works before their publication. Each one just vanished. Dr. Jenkins receives another call from Isabel Cheng. She is convinced that her professor is John Oldman, and very much wants to talk because something is not right with John Yang. John wakes up in the forest. He heads towards his car. His hand is not healing. Isabel receives a call from an elderly woman who once worked at a college in Idaho. She happened to see her letter and from the photo recognized John Place, who used to work with her. This was in 1957. She doesn't know what happened to him. He simply disappeared. So they contacted 60 colleges in 14 states. Professor Yang is an exact duplicate of 2 professors. Jenkins asks for a new photo of John, or they have nothing to discuss. The trio arrives at the class a bit early and tries to take a photo with their beloved professor, but he manages to turn away and demands they turn off their phones. Disappointed, the students discuss what to do. Maybe they should just tell the truth. Isabel recalls prophets and seers. Maybe Yang is one of them? He's clearly the smartest. They should listen to him. Philip taunts, maybe they should worship him? She suggests creating a new religion. Isabel explains that he can correct all the inaccuracies written about Jesus. Philip says that if that's the case, everything millions believed in will turn into fiction. He strongly disagrees. At night, the group approaches the professor's house and takes a photo of him. Jenkins receives the photo of the sleeping man and writes that if it's John, he has changed, and he will come. John tends to the wound on his hand when Tara enters. She says she wants to apologize and then confesses her love. She tries to get closer, but John declines. Tara says she knows who he is. John shoos her out the door. Tara tells Isabel about her visit to John. The girls understand he will definitely disappear now. Isabel calls Jenkins. Caroline says goodbye to John. She doesn't understand why he's leaving. Everything was perfect. He says he never promised anything. The woman is upset but wishes him a Merry Christmas and leaves. Jenkins is driving on a nightly highway. He asks to hold John and promises to be there in 2 hours. The group of friends goes to John's house. He, in the meantime, burns photographs in the fireplace and packs his things. The students approach and ask him not to leave. He asks them to go away. Liko then shows him the book of Jenkins. John says it's the result of a game. He's not to blame for what Art wrote. They are just talking about science fiction. Isabel says they want to help spread the word of God. John is bewildered. He's just a teacher. He's not Jesus, and they are just crazy. John turns his back, and at that moment, Liko shocks him with a taser. John loses consciousness. At this moment, Jenkins reports that his car has broken down. He's an hour away. Philip stays with John, and the rest go after Arthur. Philip moves John to the basement, ties him up, and fastens him to a chair. The awakened teacher asks to be released. The guy says that John must stay because he wants to know the truth. Young man is irritated. He doesn't know any secrets. He asks Philip which church he attends. It's all because of Jesus that he's so angry with him. The guy tells him about his difficult childhood with an alcoholic father. They managed to escape and found the church. They were baptized there and born again. That's why he has a special relationship with Christ. The guy says that John is the best teacher. and knows much more about the Bible than the others. What if God really sent his son to travel the world, gather knowledge and wisdom? But if John is Jesus, then the Bible is just fiction. He asks for the truth. John explains that 2,000 years ago he preached in Galilee, but his teachings were distorted, and he left. Recently, he has been going through changes, wrinkles, and gray hair appeared, and he can't heal his wounds. He doesn't know what happened, but he has become different. Maybe he's dying, or maybe he's just changing. He asks to untie him again. Philip takes a knife, but suddenly he stops. If he's the Son of God, why can't he untie himself? John says he's just a human, and there are other paths to enlightenment. No need to wait, you have to create heaven on earth now. Philip thinks John doesn't sound like Christ. He reminds him of the Antichrist. John objects, saying that there is no such concept in the Bible. It was invented by superstitious monks. It doesn't relate to a specific individual. But Philip says that he's like a seven-headed serpent. He heals himself, blasphemes God, and distorts the Bible. All that's missing are 3 sixes. John suggests conducting a test of faith. If he's truly a beast, Philip should kill him. But if he's Jesus, he will die and rise again. Therefore, he should either kill him or let him go. Philip stabs a knife into John's side. John loses consciousness, and Philip flees in horror. The friends, along with Dr. Jenkins, go to John's house. They try to reach Philip, but he doesn't answer. Art tells the story of his relationship with Yang. Everyone enters the house and sees bloodstains. Going down to the basement, they discover a broken chair and blood. They try to understand what happened. If it were an ambulance, there wouldn't be blood on the stairs. Maybe the professor just left, but the Van Gogh painting is still there. Tara and Liko go to call hospitals. Through the hilly terrain, Harry is walking. He calls out to John, who comes to meet him. He is adorned with a gray beard and looks exhausted. He mentions that his side still hurts, although he used to recover much faster. He jokes that he's a Holocene man now, but Harry says it's already the Anthropocene. Humans have changed the environment so much that the epic is ending. John says now, it all makes sense. He's ending with the epic. Nobody can live forever. Harry asks John for help. His father has been sick for a while, and he wants to invite John to their home. John gets into his car. An FBI agent comes to see Jenkins. Philip has not been found yet. Could John have kidnapped him? Jenkins explains that John used to hunt animals, but could he harm the young man? It's unlikely. The description of John matches the appearance of a young man who died a long time ago, but witnesses continue to see him at the scenes of gruesome crimes. Always a different name, a different place, but the same description. Can it be possible? An immortal, name-changing serial killer, and Jenkins says it's possible. Many critics did not accept the second film. They wrote that there was nothing new in the movie, just a retelling of events from the first part. But this is a different perspective, from the viewpoint of young people starting their lives. Perhaps that's why they perceive John's story differently and are even willing to go with him to share the truth with humanity. In any case, creation is multifaceted, and in the world, even the impossible can happen.